What's up, friends and family of YouTube? This is Pastor Bob. I want to explain a little bit to you about bows and twists and necks. Okay? What can cause high frets? What can cause certain sections to be higher than other sections? I just thought that it was important for me to let you all know a little bit more information on it. So, this is a new truss rod, double action truss rod, and two boards. And I'm going to use these as a demonstration. Okay? So, there's your neck. Okay? Here's your truss rod. It sits down in a groove. Okay? So, imagine there's a groove in the middle. Okay? And then on top of it goes your fretboard. All right? So, what happens with a truss rod, okay, is when you twist it, it can arch below, causing relief in the neck, right? So your neck will get a little bit of relief. Maybe I should get a pen for this to explain it a little better. And I'll do it like this. So we're gonna put this truss rod on here like it's between two. So here's your fretboard. And here's your neck. Okay, so there's your fretboard on top, your neck on the bottom, and your truss rod in the middle. Okay, so if you turn your truss rod with your Allen wrench one way, okay, it can push it down, and that's called adding relief. Now, you don't have to adjust it too much to cause little relief. Just a little bit at a time will cause a relief in your neck. But if you twist it the other way, what it does is it pushes up on your fretboard, okay? And it can cause a bow. So this is relief and this is bow, right? So there's a couple of things that can happen here, okay? And it gets confusing sometimes if you're not a guitar tech, and I would say on another level guitar tech, right? Or a luthier. And I ran into all of these scenarios, and that's why I'm going to explain them to you. So, your truss rod sits in a channel, okay? And depending on the truss rod, there's single action truss rods, there's double action truss rods, okay? And so because there is, and where it's set and how it's cranked, there's different scenarios that take place. That's why when you're making a neck, the length of your truss rod really matters, right? It really, really matters because how much relief or how much tension you put on the fretboard, right, from your truss rod has to do with the center point of your truss rod, right? So it has to do with the center point because that's where the tension is going to come. What it does is it puts tension here and tension down here, right? Mostly on the tip, right? And it causes it to either go up or go down. Okay? Causes the fretboard to go up or go down, right? Causing relief or causing you to have a bow. So, how your truss rod is and the length of your truss rod and how deep your truss rod goes, all of that is essential. Okay, that's why there's different lengths to a truss rod. They're not all a standard size, right? There's different lengths. So what can happen sometimes and can cause a twist or a hump, right, is when the channel is cut for this truss rod to fit down in your neck, right? When this channel is cut, all right? Different people applicate it differently. In other words, they put the truss rod in the neck differently. Let me explain. You've seen a Stratocaster, right? So a Stratocaster, when they're putting the truss rod in, and you see a skunk stripe on the back, they added that skunk stripe because they put the truss rod in from the playing where your palm sits on the truss rod, and then they add the skunk stripe in, and that secures your truss rod in. In other applications like Gibson Les Pauls, a lot of other brands, it doesn't matter the brand, right? When you put the truss rod in, it goes down inside the neck, and then, not always, this really depends on the maker of it, who's building it, what their standards are. What happens is this sits down inside of the neck, and then there's another piece of wood that goes over the top, okay, to secure this into the neck, and then the fretboard goes down, okay? Then in other applications, this goes down inside of the neck to where it's flush just below the surface of your neck, and then the fretboard sits on top of it, is glued on top of it. Okay? Both applications work the same way. Just all three applications work the same way. Just there's more tension in some than the others. In other words, there would be how the tension is and how much tension and where the tension is actually applying itself is differently in all three applications. Okay? Now, this is what can happen sometimes. So, when you got your truss rod down inside of the slot, right? Your truss rod sits a specific way, right? So, you see this flat part right here? See that flat part? You slide the flat part down in there, right? Now, I've seen this done hundreds of times, right? Where they have it opposite. They put the truss rod in like this, and the flat side is up. And then the flat side down. You say, well, what does it matter? On a double action truss rod, it will work in both ways, but here's where I see a problem that has come in that I have seen on several guitars. I've seen it put like this, which isn't the preferred method, right? And what happens is they get the twist in it, right? And sometimes what will happen is if the channel that this truss rod is sitting in isn't tight when that truss rod goes down in there, in other words, the tolerances are not tight enough, I've seen this truss rod flip right up on its side like this and get stuck, right? And now what it's doing is it's causing a hump, especially if there's already tension on the truss rod and it gets stuck. And it seems like it ain't moving. That's because it went up on an angle. You got to remember, that really throws that, it can throw a hump right in it. Now it's metal, right? And metal is always going to bend at its weakest point, right? Now, these are designed for tension in specific areas, but I'm just saying, I've seen it stuck right up on its side like that. And that's why you'll never get the hump out, because it's stuck, right? It's not always the swelling of wood. It can be that for some reason the channel was loose. It got stuck, and somebody cranked on it and caused it to go up on an angle, and now it can't move. It's stuck there. It's bound up. I've seen that happen. In those instances, you got to take the fretboard off, right? And could you fix it? Yeah. You could take the truss rod out. You could add a little bit of wood in there, glue it in, then rechannel it. Okay? I would just add wood into that slot and then reroute the channel and route it for the right tolerance for the truss rod to go back in. Throw that truss rod right out. Don't even mess with it because you've done things to it. Don't even play with it. Just put a new truss rod in, right? And then it should work. But now, as long as you didn't get any stress fractures in your actual fretboard, you can reuse it. But how I would reuse it is I would steam it down, wet it down, right, the fretboard, put it on something flat, secure it with some clamps flat, and let it dry for, 10 to 15 days. Let it dry good for 10 to 15 days, or longer if you can, right? Before you put your fretboard back on there, glue it back on there, right? And then once it's glued back on there, you want to wrap that up, those two pieces together, your fretboard and your neck together, and clamp them down. And I say 72 hours is a good time frame, okay? I think it's a good time frame. But remember, when you do that, if you're doing this on your own, don't get any glue done in this channel, okay? You got to keep the glue away from this. So you could wrap this in plastic bag or whatever, okay? If you're afraid, right? If you're not sure of yourself, you wrap plastic around this if you want, whatever. Because if you glue this in, it ain't moving, right? And if it does move, it might pop. And when it pops, it might just have enough tension to pop your fretboard right off or break it. I've seen it. I'm telling you, it happens. So make sure that you don't have any glue residue anywhere near this truss rod when you're reapplying it. Okay? So these are just some tips and tricks, right? A truss rod can cause your neck to twist. A lot of twists happen from improper drying procedure for your neck, the neck not being quarter-sawn, and they just sawing whatever they're sawing, in any direction, in any way they want, and not getting the grain patterns correct, right? The straighter the grain pattern is, the better off your neck is going to be, right? And quarter-sawn is the best. That's why most of your professional musicians and your high-dollar guitars will have quarter-sawn, right? And they'll state quarter-sawn because it costs more to have a neck, quarter-sawn and made. It's just the way it is. But if your grain patterns are tight and they're straight, you're going to have less of a chance of it twisting than if you see the figures on the figure patterns on your neck going in all kinds of different directions. The inconsistency there and not being dried properly can cause the neck to twist. Okay? I tell people that if you're looking and you're facing at the fretboard and you're holding the guitar out in front of you, right? If your neck twists to the right, it's easier to correct it than if your neck twists to the left as you're looking at the fretboard, as you're holding it out in front of you. And the reason why is the E, A, and D strings cause the most tension on your neck, right? So when it comes from the bridge, across your fretboard, across your nut, to your machine heads, there's more tension on the E, A, and D from the low E, A, and D than the G, B, and E strings because there's less tension out there, right? So if it's twisting out there, that means for some reason, that wood wasn't dried properly, or there was already something a fault in the wood, or there's many different reasons for it. and it can be fixed, but not always the same procedure takes place. A lot of people don't mess with it. They'll just get another neck, depending on, the expense of the guitar instrument that you're using, whether it's a violin, a fiddle, a stand-up bass, a viola, whatever it may be, right? So that really has a lot to do with whether you're going to fix the neck or whether you're going to throw the neck out and just make a new neck. When you're fixing a neck, depending on how much meat you have in the neck, you're going to have to take the neck and you're going to have to take the fretboard off. You're going to have to make the neck straight again, flat and straight, right? Then you're going to have to add wood to your neck to compensate for whatever you have taken off to make that flat again. You're going to have to compensate that and build it back up. Then reinstall your truss rod. So you'll have to, recut the channel for your truss rod and then reapply your fretboard. So this is the reason why it can become complicated, guys. Okay, this is the reason why, guitar techs and luthiers perform these, what we call surgeries. Because it's not always cut and dry, right? Exactly what's wrong, how it is. We can't always solve the issues because unless we have it in our hands and we're actually looking at it, can we apply some of the skills that we've learned over the years to either correct, fix the problem, or, replace the issue with a neck. So I just wanted to do a little short video, kind of give you a little overview and a little insight in case you guys are trying to repair some guitars or stringed instruments in the future. And that way you'll kind of get an idea of what you may be embarking upon. And there's a whole lot to it, and it's a long process, and it could be painstaking and costly. So you have to really weigh the situation appropriately. Okay? All right, I hope this was helpful to you guys. Take care. God bless. This is Pastor Bob, and I'm out of here. See ya.